Like the first question we get asked is, what are the main options for creating Marketo templates? And what I mean by that is companies will usually get Marketo implemented and then they'll realize that yes, there's a whole bunch of default templates in there, but those default templates are poor quality and they're a particular style, like they're particular color, particular layout, which unless you have the exact same brand as that, it's not going to work, and no one does. So either way, you're going to need to get a coder to come and change the colors. Right? Colors, fonts, logos, of course, simple things. Whether you get an external coder or internal, doesn't really matter. There's like costs involved there. But that doesn't solve the other problem. The other problem is these templates, at best, might have 5 sections. So if you take out the header and the footer, you're only looking at 3 sections. So it's not a lot of different combinations of emails. So if you want a different layout, so imagine you've got your blog, you've got newsletters, you've got sales emails, you've got nurturing emails, you've got all kinds of emails, and every single one of them you would ideally like a different layout. But if you only have 3 modules to move around in Marketo, that's not going to give you a lot of options, and it's not going to. So let's say I want an event now, and I want speakers, and I want the event overview, I want the location, I want a map in there. That's more than 3 sections is going to do for you. And most companies, so let's say you don't have tight brand guidelines, then maybe it's enough to get away with. If you're sending an email every month and you can fit that, okay, fine, that's cool. But then the problem most companies have is that they do have brand guidelines. So they can't just send out emails that aren't on brand. And the other thing is, those email templates that Marketo have, some of them were purchased off like third-party sites, and they're very poor quality. They haven't been properly tested on devices. They haven't been updated for at least 2-3 years, which means that if you've got iOS, the latest version 12.1, whatever it is, it's not going to work on that because the code of that template is 2-3 years old, if not more. Which means it's guaranteed to not be compatible with the latest devices. And that's the trick with email. Everyone forgets an email. They think it's like a PDF document. Everyone will see the same thing. Absolutely not. Depending on the device, the email client, even the size of screen. Like all of these components will come into play so that you don't actually know what the client will see at the end. And that's the complexity of email marketing and specifically email templates. So as you can imagine, using templates from 3 years ago, it's not going to work. So that's the 2 problems. You've got coding being up to standard, being compatible with devices, and then you need to have it on brand. It needs to be on a particular brand, and if you're working for a decent sized company, so mid-market and especially enterprise, you might have brand guidelines that are like 100 pages thick. And those emails need to adhere to those brand guidelines in every device and every client that's out there. So that's a lot of work. And that's what a lot of people don't understand with email marketing. Like just at its core, forget Marketo, at its core, that's a problem. So what do companies do? They usually go out, they get a template built, it's compatible with Marketo, they pop it in. But then what about maintenance? What about when it breaks? When you realize in a particular device it's not working, hasn't been tested properly? And then what about if I just need a new section? It still requires me to have a coder to fix, to add new sections. And then it's the other thing, there are limitations around Marketo's editor, inbuilt email editor. If you tried to load up a master template with 30 sections in it, it would take minutes just to load it and show it to you. So you can imagine how painful it is to work with that. So that's the kind of problems that people run into when they're trying to use Marketo as a template builder, because it's not a template builder. You can build emails, it's rudimentary, but it's mainly built for creating campaigns and sending it out rather than the creation of the actual asset. It's not particularly strong creating an email asset. And that's normal. Like most automation software out there, like Marketo, have the exact same problems that I just described. It's not unique to Marketo. So the real question is...
So now that we understand Marketo's limitations, can you talk us through what are the benefits from ETB? Like, what can I do with ETB that I can't do with Marketo?
Absolutely. And so the problems I've described before it's the exact same problems we had as an agency. So imagine us as an agency, Hoosh Marketing, hundreds of Marketo clients over the last 5 years. At the beginning, all we were doing is email, like pretty basic email campaigns. So that means you're constantly creating, coding, and you're running into the limitations of these templates constantly. Sending out campaigns, realizing there's a bug, going back and fixing it. We could do all of that, but it sucked up so much of our time and our clients' time that we thought, hang on, there's got to be a better way to do this. It doesn't make sense. Why don't we build a tool that allows us to quickly create emails for Marketo that are on brand, that don't require a coder, and that have been pre-tested, so we know that they're going to be compatible with all the devices that we want. And the trick there is to ensure that a non-technical person can modify the email and it not cause underlying breakages, because as soon as you change something that changes the underlying HTML, and this happens in Marketo all the time, you go in, you change a bit of text, it can inadvertently change the HTML under. And the problem with HTML in email is it's not like landing pages that adhere to standards. It is a black art because of the compatibility issues with so many different devices. So if you look at Outlook 2015, depending on which Internet Explorer you have installed, it will render emails differently on the same email client. That's just one example among many. So the trick was for us is how to create a tool that allows you to do all that, but it doesn't allow you to change the underlying HTML, because that's the real trick. The real trick is a non-technical person can add content, create the layout, do everything you can do in an email, but there is no way for them to change the underlying HTML code. Which means if the base template has been extensively tested, you do not need to retest. You can be confident that the emails you create will be compatible on all the devices that the base template was created. You can't do that in Marketo by itself, because Marketo does not limit the way you can edit it without breaking HTML. It's just one of the limitations of not just Marketo, but most automation tools. So we did. So we created the email template builder, and that was the criteria. Being able to load up a pre-built template. So the template is still handcrafted. You still need a coder that will go and make sure that that template is on brand, tested in all the devices and works. But when we create a master template, we create it with a minimum of 15 sections. That's more than 1.3 million combinations of different emails. So you have your master template, like Lego blocks. You select the Lego blocks that you want, and you create the final layout of the email that you want. Which means that you can very quickly create whatever combination you require, as long as you have the base Lego blocks that you require. And because we've been doing this for so long, when we create those master templates, we know exactly the sections people need. If you tell me you need to do blogs, newsletters, announcements, events, I can tell you exactly which sections you need in those 15, in that base master template. So then at this point, we created a tool that just allows you to just drag and drop those sections, as many as you want, creating an email as long as you want with the exact layout you want, completely on brand, and there's no way it can break the HTML, so all you have to do is add the content, and off you go, email goes out. So the net result is, when you use a tool, when you use the email template builder, it's 4 to 7 times faster than building it in Marketo. And you have the ability to create 1.3 million combinations from a 16 section master template. If you tried to load a master template with 15 sections in Marketo, like I said, it's going to take a very long time to even load it. And it's not as simple as just clicking and editing sections. Ours is made for a non-designer, non-technical person. They don't know anything about HTML. It's made for absolutely anyone. And that's that you get that training, the savings around training people. You don't need to train as many people. You don't need to train as many people. You don't need to train them. You don't even need to give them access to Marketo. they can build assets here. So we have customers where they have teams of 40, 50 content creators. You don't want 50 people in your Marketo working on the same email. Marketo doesn't even allow you to collaborate on the same email. If you and I try to edit the same email, what will happen is you will overwrite my changes, I will overwrite yours. So there's no coordination. This just doesn't work. Even the most basic collaboration doesn't work in Marketo. So imagine an email template, or sorry, an email newsletter that you need to put together with 15 sections, and you need 4 or 5 different people adding content. You can't do it in Marketo. You'd just be overwriting each other's changes and you'd go crazy and kill each other. You don't want that. So that's what our tool's about. It's about that collaboration, working together and actually creating those emails as a team, and then creating an output, an asset that gets synced directly into Marketo and then goes out without having to do all the testing and all the rest, because you've done that. And then incrementally, as you want new sections in your template, they get added to your master template. And you just can, that just increases the amount of different layouts you can have. So we've got customers that might have 40 different master templates. Each of those master templates might have 20 to 50 sections. So you literally can create whatever you want. Whatever's in your mind, you can create it from those modules. It's very rare you run into a layout that you can't do, because you just have so much choice.
And something else, is it possible to view each revision that a team member has made on an email?
That's a good question. So one of the first things we did once we built the email template builder. So once we had the basics of just, here's a master template, create your email, pop it in, straight away we thought, well, hang on, there's multiple people trying to work on this, especially when you have the option now to create more complex, and it's so fast to create templates. Now you're creating more templates, which means usually that means more people are involved. So the ability to track revisions is really important. So if you have 5 people, even 2 people working on the same email, you don't need to go ask them every time they add something. You can look at the revisions. So what did they just change? What did you change before that? What did they change that? Like there might be 50 revisions of the same email. So that's really important. But also the collaboration part. So being able to basically comment on every module to say, hey, Bob, I need you to add content here. Stacey, I need you to add content here.
Right.
It's that interaction.
Okay. So your solution sounds really, really good. But now I'm wondering, is it possible for me to try out your product before purchasing it?
Of course. So one of the, we offer a free version of the ETB, no time limits, complete functionality. You can put multiple people there, collaborate, revisions. We even have the workflow, like it's unhindered. There's no limitations on it. The only thing it doesn't have is syncing to your Marketo, because obviously that requires API access to your Marketo, so not everyone can do that. So you can try all of that. What it doesn't have is your template. It doesn't have your template loaded in there specifically on brand with the layout you want. So that's the bit that you don't get in the free version. To get that, you need the full paid package, because it actually does require work to create that template for you. However, you can even supply your own template, and we can load it up in the email template bidder, and you can use that.
All right. And last but not least, why should we pick Hoosh Marketing as an agency to support us?
Well, that's a great question. So when we deliver the email template builder, it's more of a solution around asset creation in Marketo. So what I mean by that is we have the expertise to create the templates, and we know the sections we need to give you, so that you should get at least a year to 2 years of use out of your master template. That should cover all your needs. But more importantly, we guarantee the underlying code. So if you run into an issue with a client or a device, we'll go back and fix it free of charge. So during the time that you have a subscription to it, you have coders at your disposal that will go in and actually change whatever is broken in your base template, which is really important. That's the part that's the most painful. Of course, we extensively test the template. We do incredible Q&A. It takes quite a while to do. We even tested on actual devices. So not just the simulated devices like most companies do, we actually tested on devices. But even so, you can't get everything right. It's impossible, right? So there will be bugs that pop up, and we fix those free of charge. It's part of your subscription. So what you're getting is actually a solution for creation of emails. And the real cost saving, the ROI, like that's what I get asked, like what is the ROI? Well, it's the lowest total cost of ROI. Why I'm saying that is because you don't need a coder. Because if you're creating emails 4 to 7 times faster, that means you're saving your people's time. So if you actually add up the time that it costs to create emails, to Q&A and all of that, you're reducing that by a factor of 4 to 7. So that's where your cost savings come up.